I'm Greg Casar. I'm proud to represent the heart of Texas in Congress and be chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Today marks 100 days since Donald Trump took the oath of office surrounded by the richest men on earth. The most important story of Trump's 100 days is crystal clear. Trump, Musk, and the billionaire class are using the government to rip off working people every single day for 100 days. For 100 days, they have cut your services. For 100 days, they've raised your prices. For 100 days, they have fired veterans and stolen their salaries. For 100 days, Trump, Musk, and the billionaire class have gotten richer off of you while our country has gotten screwed. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. For his entire career, Trump has stolen from working people while claiming to be, quote, anti-establishment. But in the last 100 days, Trump has finally ripped that anti-establishment mask off, starting with the row of billionaires sitting right behind him at his inauguration and continuing every day since. Trump has created a government by and for the billionaires. And if anyone ever doubted that Trump and Musk and Bezos and the billionaires are all at one team, just look at what happened at Amazon today. Bezos immediately caved and walked back a plan to tell Americans how much Trump's tariffs are costing them. Bezos, who spent $40 million on Melania Trump's documentary, wants big tax cuts and sweetheart deals much more than he wants to represent the American people. The message to our communities and to people watching at home is crystal clear. These billionaires and Trump are on one team and stick together. And it is the responsibility of Democrats to bring people across the country together that are everybody else besides the billionaires. Today, Americans don't need a dictionary to know what oligarchy is. All they have to do is turn on the news. Musk cutting Social Security services and firing veterans to pay for bigger government contracts for himself. House Republicans pushing the biggest cuts to Medicaid in American history to pay for tax cuts for their billionaire donors. And Trump jacking up prices on working families by $4,000 a month in order to have corporations and billionaires come sit at his feet and pay him extortion money in order to get exceptions to his tariffs. I don't care what word we use for it. Democrats need to make confronting the billionaire takeover of our government our top priority. Now, I do see some hope amidst the darkness. 100 days ago, there were many Democrats who were grieving or unsure of where to go from here. 100 days ago, there was debate within our party about whether to play footsie with Elon Musk or go toe-to-toe with him. But today, the Democratic Party is shaping up. Millions of Americans have protested and marched and called and demanded that Republican politicians stop acting like puppets. And we know now that we cannot just be the anti-Trump party, but progressives especially are organizing Democrats to build a vision for America where the world actually gets better after this. This week, the Progressive Caucus has begun discussions about a policy agenda that will end the billionaire takeover of our government and make sure our government really works for working people. In the short term, before we take back the House, our priority is to stop the bleeding and stop the corruption. In markups this week, Republicans will be forced by our CPC members to confront again and again whether these Republican members of Congress want to act like representatives of their constituents or representatives of their billionaire donors. And together, alongside the entire Democratic caucus, I believe we can pressure just the 3 House Republicans we need to flip their votes, and we can save Medicaid as we know it. We can stop the billionaire takeover of our government. And in the coming month, we can remind the entire country that we can fire Elon Musk by May 30th, the day that he legally must exit his role at the White House. If we do these things, then I believe that 100 days from now, Democrats can say we have found our way out of the wilderness and back to our roots of fighting for all working people. And with that, we will pass it along to a number of our leaders in the Progressive Caucus to discuss all of the important issues that faced us the last 100 days and how we'll take them on over the next 100 days. So I'm handing over the podium to our Deputy Chair, Ilhan Omar.
Thank you, Chair Casar. We knew that the lies, the chaos, and the destruction were on its way when Trump got sworn in 100 days ago. And just in 3 months, we have seen the gutting of institutions, the shattering of norms, and the fundamental rights of so many people being trampled on. We have watched Trump tear through our government like a wrecking ball by destabilizing federal agencies, undermining the rule of law, and lashing out against anyone who dares to dissent. Trump said he would fight for workers. Instead, he handed the federal government over to a billionaire, Elon Musk, who fired tens of thousands of public servants whose only crime is doing their job. And what do we have to show for it? Not $1 trillion in saving, not even close. Trump swore he would bring down prices. Instead, his reckless tariffs have rattled markets, interest rates are soaring, and the threat of recession looms. A recent poll showed that only 11% of Americans feel better off since the election, with majority believing the economy is deteriorating. Trump swore he will pay off the national debt. Instead, he wants to hand out tax breaks to billions while planning to cut Medicaid and SNAP. And here at home, we're seeing ICE has deported nearly 140,000 people, often with no due process or real hearings. In our streets, the crackdown has reached a terrifying new level. Students have been disappeared. Their only crime is daring to demand an end to a genocide. This is the behavior of a dictator. They are trying to turn our government into a weapon to punish enemies and reward friends. But I am here to tell you that this is not normal. Just last week, I spoke with students, small business owners, and seniors in my district. I listened to seniors and veterans who said, with tears in their eyes, that after a life of service, they are now afraid their Social Security checks will vanish into the pockets of billionaires. This fear is real, but so is our resolve. We will not allow billionaires to run our democracy like it is one of their business ventures to strip for parts. We fight because we believe in an America that is big enough, brave enough, and free enough for all of us. Donald Trump and his enablers want to create a country where power is hoarded by the few and the rest of us are criminalized by daring to exist. If they thought the first 100 days of chaos would break us, they were wrong. Because across this country, millions of us are standing up for our human rights and our democracy. Judges are fighting back to block these unconstitutional executive orders. Here in Congress, we are fighting back every single day. We are fighting to protect immigrant families from mass detention and deportation. We are fighting to prevent horrific cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, and Social Security. It won't be easy, but we must continue to organize, to speak out, and to build a future that reflects our highest ideals. Thank you, and I am proud to introduce Representative Pramila Chayapal, Chair Emerita of the Progressive Caucus.
Thank you so much, Deputy Chair Omar. Thank you to our chairman, Greg Kassar, for leading us in this very, very important time. In the 100 days since taking office, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and the Department of Greed and Ego have taken a literal chainsaw to our government. They have eliminated and threatened programs that help people in every corner of our country, both red and blue. So I want to spend a few minutes just talking about health care and some of the promises that Trump made on the campaign trail. First of all, he said he was going to lower prescription drug costs. Promise made, promise broken. He said he would make IVF free. Remember that? Even as his Republican cronies in Congress took aim at it. Promise made, promise broken. He promised to not make a single cut to Medicare or Social Security. Promise made, promise broken. Let's be real. We have all heard the clip of Elon Musk saying the quiet part out loud, that Social Security and Medicare are the big ones that need to be cut. I know, and you know, that these are not entitlement programs the way that Musk talks about them. They are earned benefit programs. They are programs that people have paid into their entire lives so that they would have some security when they retire. No unelected billionaire should be able to just slash those benefits. And the budget that the Republicans are marking up this week in committees would cut a minimum of $880 billion from Medicaid. This is not a red state, blue state issue. Medicaid pays for health care for 38 million kids. That includes more than 3 million in Texas. It pays for 64% of childbirths in Louisiana, Speaker Mike Johnson's home state. This is an all-out assault on our workers, on our federal safety net. It is promises made, promises broken by an administration that cares more about big pharma CEOs than families that rely on Medicaid, cares more about insurance shareholders than seniors who are getting ripped off. An administration that cares more about keeping their billionaire buddies happy rather than lowering the costs of literally anything that Americans need. It is all promises made and promises broken. So now, 100 days in, we know exactly how Trump will conduct this presidency. And it is important that we both fight back and fight forward, that we have a positive, proactive agenda that we continue to fight for. And just today, we introduced the Medicare for All bill with Senator Sanders, Debbie Dingell, and over 100 of our House colleagues to say that universal health care is what we all need in the richest country in the world. And ultimately, we need to come together to stand up and to show that our collective power is stronger than their hate and that we will always fight for the American people. Thank you all. And now it is an honor to introduce Representative Jimmy Gomez from California.
Thank you. It is quite impressive what Donald Trump has pulled off in 100 days. In 100 days, he has tanked the U.S. economy. He has isolated the United States from their traditional allies, and he has driven a lot of those traditional allies into the arms of China. In 100 days. Think about that. If there was ever going to be a movie written about this 100 days, it would be how to destroy the world's greatest economy in 100 days or less, because that's exactly what he did. And this has all been because Donald Trump promised the golden era of America. He promised he would lower prices on day one. He made promise after promise after promise. But once the billionaire establishment has taken root, they have here in D.C., they have been trying to accomplish one thing: how to give tax breaks to the billionaires and the largest corporations in this country, and everything else be damned. So the economic plan that they had to raise all the billions, if not trillions of dollars was, one, cut the federal government as much as possible. That means eliminate the VA, eliminate SNAP, eliminate Medicaid, any program that's meant to help working people and families, they're trying to cut it. Then they're imposing tariffs, and their tariffs are a plan to, one, raise revenue, and two, they say it's going to bring manufacturing back to the United States. I want to be clear, we're not against all tariffs, we're against dumb tariffs, and these are dumb tariffs because they raise the prices on consumer goods and hurt small businesses unnecessarily. And that's exactly what this administration has done. This tariff agenda was also made up by Pete Navarro. Pete Navarro, who quoted himself, Ron Vera, as an expert to justify a tariff agenda That makes no economic sense. They also had a formula that tariff formula that every economist, conservative otherwise, planned as it didn't make sense. So they were banking their whole economic agenda on a tariff proposal that hurts working families. We've seen prices increase. We've seen containers at the shipping ports get stalled or canceled altogether. So what you're seeing is just a complete devastation when it comes to the American economy. And if you really want to kind of dig deeper, ask a working man and woman. I'm the chair of the Dad's Caucus, but I also have a toddler who's 2 years and 7 months. And my son, all he's doing is growing, like other parents. Well, where do our shoes come from? This is just an easy example. 99% of all shoes purchased in the United States are made outside the United States. A child between the age of 1 and 5 will go through anywhere through 15 to 30 pairs of shoes. And that's going to cost the family anywhere. It's going to go from $300 to $800 in expenses just on shoes. But then you take into the fact that a stroller, a car seat, baby wipes, toys, all of it, comes from outside the country. So this is a tax on working people and making life a lot harder to get by. Food, produce, 40% of our produce comes from outside this country. So just go on and on and on. And the American family is struggling and carrying the burden of an economic strategy that doesn't make sense. It's not going to bring any jobs home, and it's actually going to make things more expensive. Additionally, it's going to cause small businesses to shut down. When people start tightening their belts, that means they're spending less. A small business owner has two choices: either raise the prices or cut back a little bit, cut back on hours, cut back on certain products, and go from there. And it's this downward spiral over and over and over again. So what do we have? A situation? We have economists warning that we're going to have a recession. Anywhere from 45 to 60% chance of having a recession in the next year. So this is going to hurt people. Additionally, I was on a plane just coming back from D.C. going to L.A. with a person that works for a Unite here in Vegas. And he told me that they're already cutting workers in Las Vegas. Why? Because less people are spending. The people, 40% of the foreign travel to Vegas are Canadians, and they're not coming to Vegas. So this is an economic ripple effect that is not going to bring people, help lift people. It's actually hurting them. And this is what 100 days of a second Trump administration looks like. And it's all to give those billionaires and the largest corporations tax cuts. That's all it's about. And people are going to suffer more and more and more. So we're going to fight. We're going to continue fighting back. And it was the Progressive Caucus that has been leading it. One, we're going to show up and fight. We're going to fight them in the committees. We're going to fight them in the courts. We're going to fight them in the streets. And then we're going to also stall the Republican agenda in Congress by any means necessary. And in the end, the math is the math. They have more votes than we do. But if we show up and fight, we get people motivated and organize. And that's the last step. Organize. Get people to make sure that they're talking to people that don't listen to our news podcasts, watch our cable shows, or read our newspapers. Because those are the people that we need to win over. And when we do, that's when they're going to start putting pressure on the David Valladeos and the Young Kims and the Juan Sismanis. Those are how we actually bring them and hopefully limit the devastation of this administration. I wouldn't hold my breath, but we're going to keep doing that. And if not, the American people are going to hold them to account. With that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I'm Lloyd Doggett from Texas. I think to measure the success of Trump's 100 days, just look at his promises for his first day. Said he'd be a dictator on day one. He sure kept that promise. But he also promised, quote, starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. He promised, starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down. Well, the chickens weren't listening, because the price of eggs is up 26% since January at $6.23 a dozen. Overpromising and underdelivering. That's the Trump approach. He's making prices greater again, much greater. While markets are drastically down, 401ks are down, retirement savings accounts are down, the opportunity for many Americans is down. And with soaring debt, with tight family budgets, with plummeting markets, and measles outbreak, the Republicans have sure turned America red again, but it isn't the type of red they promised. On again, partially off again tariffs are costing American families an estimated minimum of $4,900 a year. And Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell warns that, quote, the tariff increases will be significantly larger than expected. The same is likely true of the economic effects, higher inflation and slower growth. Americans don't need a Fed chair to tell them what they're experiencing every day. They see the prices rising at the grocery store, with the car dealer, even something as simple as buying some flowers for Mother's Day or for a spring wedding. The price goes up, and away, because those are imported goods. The only thing that Trump has liberated from his Liberation Day is to liberate dollars from our wallets and to liberate some owners from their businesses as costs rise. Of course, for Musk and the other billionaires, tax breaks are on the way, likely markup next week. Republicans are so very concerned about the threat of our national debt growing that they're going to add a few $1 trillion more. But the cost of their tax bill will not just be IOUs, it will be you. By cutting federal support for those services that our taxpayers have fought for, earned, and rely upon, closing Social Security regional offices, wrecking the Veterans Administration, firing more military veterans than any president in history, meaning longer wait times and worse customer service, cutting health care, terminating vital research. It's all out there in ways that harm Americans. So some folks thought that they could trade our democracy in order to get more wealth. They're about to lose both. And unless you're really a billionaire already, there's not much that you stand to gain from their agenda. That's why we progressive Democrats are fighting back, continuing to place our priority on working families, retirees, students, and our environment. I'm pleased to introduce our leader on the Small Business Committee, my longtime friend, Nydia Velázquez.
Thank you. The first 100 days of Donald Trump's second term can only be described as an assault on our immigration system and on the Constitution itself. Foreign students here legally have been picked off the street simply for speaking out against U.S. foreign policy. Mixed status families have been torn apart overnight, and people have been sent to foreign prisons without even a chance to defend themselves. Over the weekend, we learned that even U.S. citizen children, including one battling cancer, have been deported. Let that sink in. U.S. citizen children sick with cancer deported to foreign countries. How can we claim to stand for human rights or be a beacon of hope around the world when this is how we treat our most vulnerable Americans? Each of these examples is tragic, but taken together, they amount to an assault on due process, which has always been the foundation of the American justice system. We have a Department of Homeland Security that acts like the law doesn't apply to them. We have a president who floats the idea of sending American citizens to rot in a Salvadorian prison. And we have an administration that seems to take pride in tearing up the basic rights that are supposed to protect all of us. We're not going to stand by and watch this happen. In 100 days, the Trump administration has launched an all-out assault on due process, and they are only getting bolder. That is why we have to speak out. Because if we don't push back now, it won't stop with immigrants. No one's rights in this country will be safe. Who will be next? A reporter for doing his or her job about reporting about some assault or sharing an opinion on foreign policy? Who is next? We got to stop this by organizing and mobilizing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranking Member.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Melanie Stansbury, and I am deeply proud to represent New Mexico's 1st Congressional District and to serve in the role as the ranking member of the DOJ Subcommittee of Oversight and Accountability. But I'm here to say welcome to the first 100 days of Donald Trump's failed attempt to remake American society, which has been an absolute and total unmitigated disaster. And I'll build on what was said just a moment ago. Not only was this how to destroy the world's greatest economy in 100 days, I will say it was how to destroy the world's greatest democracy, its economy, and its world standing in 100 days, because that is exactly what Donald Trump has done over the last 3.5 months. Now, let's make something very clear. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, DOJ, these billionaires who are serving in the cabinet around him are not here to make American life better. They are here to steal from us. They are here to remake American society in their image, and they are here to take over our government and dismantle it from within. Over the last 100 days, they have literally fired tens of thousands of Americans. They have signed hundreds of executive orders and taken hundreds of executive actions, resulting in mass firings, dismantling of agencies, data mining of your sensitive data, hurting real Americans, teachers, firefighters, veterans, and all along the way, they've been self-dealing, giving themselves contracts, Elon Musk taking off with literally billions of dollars in his pocket in new contracts. Now, is it any question that any of this is historically unpopular with the American people? In fact, the polling as of this week shows that almost 2/3 of Americans believe that they are doing a terrible job, whether that's Elon Musk or DOJ or what Donald Trump is doing with the economy and his tariffs and immigration. The American people are speaking loud and clear. They do not want what Donald Trump is serving. So, I am here to join the American people in saying enough is enough with the lies, enough with the secrecy, enough with the grift, fraud, waste, and abuse. Hands off our Social Security, hands off our veterans, hands off our communities, hands off our Medicaid, hands off the vital housing and food assistance programs that our communities depend on, and hands off our environment. We will not stand for this. As progressives, as the Progressive Caucus, we call on the American people to join us, to continue to speak up, speak out, keep marching, keep showing up, keep calling Republican offices, keep organizing, because we will take back our democracy, because we will make sure that our colleagues across the aisle stand up and are held accountable, and we will take back this House in the midterms and restore the sanity and democracy of this country. I yield back.
Thank you so much. Amen. Thank you, Ranking Member. We're about to open it up to your questions, but I think what you heard from everyone in summary is, for the folks watching at home, your costs in these first 100 days of the Trump administration went up, and these guys got a sweet government contract. You might have lost your job. These guys got a cabinet position or a private dinner. And I think in these 100 days, the Progressive Caucus is organizing our members and folks across the country to make our party the pro-working people party and the party that's against these sorts of guys and what they're doing to folks. Looking forward to taking your questions. Go ahead. And if y'all can say your name and your outlet even when I know many of you, it's helpful.
Arthur Jones, the second ABC News. Have you had any luck with reaching across the aisle to some of those moderate Republicans and helping push back against the
I would love to hear from folks. My couple of quick sentences on this, though, is I hear often from Republican quote-unquote moderates that they're concerned about what's going on when they're moderate elected officials, but they don't vote against these cuts to Medicaid. They're not voting against the billionaire tax cuts. They just cave, just like Jeff Bezos caved, to just being part of the Trump-Musk organization. And so I think Republican voters, when they hear about what Republican members of Congress are doing, are outraged. That's why I've done town halls in 3 different Republican districts, as have many of the other Progressive Caucus members. And in all 3 of those town halls in Republican districts, I've heard from conservatives and progressive constituents alike that they're opposed to robbing from our health care to give Zuckerberg and Bezos and Musk a tax break. And the question is whether these Republican members of Congress will start voting with their constituents or will just kind of continue to follow Trump and Musk wherever they lead them.
Yeah. I would just add the first group of people in our country who were effectively intimidated by Trump were not immigrants or poor people. They were House Republicans. And they are scared to do what they need to do to represent their constituents, unwilling to join with us to stop the horrors that we see, but we won't stop reaching out to them.
And I've had conversations being on Ways and Means with some of the moderates on the committee. And I said, before the tariffs, I said, this is going to devastate the economy. The stock market is going to crash. They would just kind of like, well, you got to wait, da-da-da. So they'll dance around it. They never admit it. And they know that to be true, right? I even saw one on Bloomberg talking about how tariffs were not great, but they're not going to vote against Trump at all. And even if you look at a lot of the deficit hawks, the people that, let's look at Schweikert. Their plan, their budget reconciliation is going to add trillions of dollars to the deficit and to the debt. And what is he going to do? He's going to vote aye. So people should go and ask them, hey, you've been campaigning and you've been talking about the debt for years, and you're going to go and vote for Donald Trump's plan? Because that's exactly what they're going to do. They're not going to buck Elon Musk and Donald Trump, not at all.
I'll give you 4 concrete real-life examples. I'm just coming off a town hall tour back in New Mexico. I represent 10 rural counties. I did 15 town halls touching more than 15,000 New Mexicans. I was incredibly surprised that in one of my town halls in one of the more conservative and rural parts of my district, it was predominantly local Republican elected officials who came to tell me how deeply concerned they are about what's happening, the effects to funding freezes, the effects of these mass firings, the effects that it's having on local municipalities and tribes, and asking me to work in a bipartisan basis to push back. So it's happening at the local level. Secondly, when we heard the administration might mass fire healthcare workers at the Indian Health Service, I worked with several members across the aisle to contact cabinet members to try to make sure that they didn't slash funding for tribal programs. While they have not come out publicly, I do know that they made calls behind the scenes to the White House and to cabinet officials because they know the catastrophic impacts it would have. So these are members of the Republican caucus here. Third, we know that last week 12 Republican House members signed on to a letter saying that they would not vote for cuts to Medicaid. We need to make sure that they hold to that promise and that that wasn't just a campaign gimmick, because they did vote for it in the reconciliation instructions. Now, if it comes out of Energy and Commerce with $880 billion in Medicaid, we can kiss those folks goodbye because they lied to the public, they lied to their constituents, and they lied to the American people. And finally, I want to lift up at least one voice of one brave Republican member across the aisle, and that's Lisa Murkowski. She has risked everything and put everything on the line for our democracy to tell the truth about what's going on inside this administration. And my sincerest hope is that my Republican colleagues who do care about democracy and good government and about real people will have the backbone that Senator Murkowski has had to stand up for the American people. And so I don't want to just attack folks across the aisle for abrogating their responsibilities, but I want to encourage them that the American people are with you. So stand up. Do not be kowtowed by this administration. The American people will have your back. 2/3 of Americans are opposed to what they're doing.
And vote no.
And vote no.
Yeah.
Could you talk about how the Progressive Caucus policy agenda will address immigration, just given House Republicans, in addition to tax cuts, want to boost more funding for border security, and GOP-led states like Texas support these efforts?
The Progressive Caucus recognizes that Democrats can actually go on the offense on issues of immigration. The vast majority of the American people today do not believe that we should be sending people from this country to a prison camp in El Salvador run by a dictator. The vast majority of the American people are opposed to these mass deportation efforts where you have U.S. citizen kids with cancer being deported, and then the president and his White House continuing to lie about it. And so I refuse to believe that Democrats should just follow whatever poll there was from the last election. The American people know and believe that we're a country of immigrants and that immigrants make us stronger and that these mass deportation plans are deeply dangerous. And so the Progressive Caucus is going to continue to advocate for us to actually have a humane and orderly and safe immigration system. What the Republican caucus has done and what Trump campaigned on was breaking our immigration system and then complaining about it being broken and then burning it down more. We can't keep being in the situation where the arsonists come and blame the firefighters for the flames. I think that if we win back the House and then are able to actually have rational people in the White House, it's on us to finally have a comprehensive reform of our immigration system where, yes, we have safety and order, but we also should have a real path for the folks that have been here for years in places like Texas and California and New Mexico to have some certainty and to have some humanity, because it is not just the rights of immigrants that are under a threat. When people like Donald Trump undermine the rights first of immigrants, next he starts to undermine the rights of legal permanent residents, next he's undermining the rights of U.S. citizens with immigrant parents, next he's coming for your rights, no matter who you are or where you come from. And I think that needs to be the message on offense from the Progressive Caucus.
Can I add one thing? I want to also add that I want to call BS on the immigration deployment that Donald Trump is doing, because as a representative from a border state, I can tell you that our governor and our elected officials actually asked the Trump administration for support with the real issues that our state is dealing with the border, and that is namely fentanyl and the illicit trafficking of drugs and human trafficking that is, of course, dangerous to all individuals. And not only did he not send a single Border Patrol agent to come help with that, or dollar or piece of technology, he instead asked our governor to use our National Guard resources to support his mass deportations. So I think it's important that we not validate what he's doing on the border, because it's all smoke and mirrors and, frankly, Kristi Noem cosplaying. Like, this is not real. They're not actually addressing the fundamental issues, and I believe that is why the American people are saying we reject how you're handling immigration, because not only is it violating due process and the normal process by which asylum and other cases get processed and fears it's creating for American citizens, they're not dealing with the actual real problems like drug and human trafficking on the border. So it's a lot of bullshit.
In light of all that has been discussed here, if you guys take the House back next year, should President Trump
We'll deal with taking back the House. What I'll tell you is we all know that Donald Trump has broken the law constantly in his first term, repeatedly, and throughout these last 100 days, repeatedly broken the law. What we, I think, need to be committed to doing is hitting him where it hurts and making sure that instead of going and saying, okay, Jim Jordan, why don't you determine the witnesses and the evidence, instead for us to actually have the truth come out and make it very clear on our terms how it is that Trump is failing the American people by jacking up their costs, by firing veterans, by undermining due process, by threatening every single person's fundamental rights, by enriching these guys while having you pay for more and more. And I think that really continues to be our focus.
Yeah. Also, we don't really know what everything he's done, right? There is a chill has swept over all aspects of American life, especially if you're in the departments. If you're in any federal department, how many of them are actually speaking up when they're seeing a wrongdoing, knowing that this administration will come after you? They'll not only fire you, they might even stick the Department of Justice on you if they consider what you're whistleblowing on illegitimate. Right? So we really don't know the legality of some of the things that they've done because people haven't necessarily stepped forward. And when we take back the House, I'm predicting we're going to see a flood of whistleblowers coming forward, coming to the House and saying, this is what happened, this is what they did, this is how they stole from the American people, that we're going to be inundated. And we will have to make a determination of what course of action we take at that moment. But one of the things I want to stress is nobody should, no egg joke, no pun intended, but people shouldn't count their chickens before they're hatched. We still need to mobilize, energize, and educate the public to win them on our side. There's no guarantee we're going to win the House back. And if people are already thinking that, then we've already lost. So people should be sober and talk to people where they're at and on the issues that they are dealing with, the pain they are dealing with. Because if you miss that, if you don't focus on that, then they're going to say, see, Democrats don't have the priorities of the American people. They're always trying to do what's best for them, not for us.
Can I add a couple of data points? I'm just going to add a couple of data points. One, why do we think Donald Trump is preparing to be impeached? His own team, it was announced, is preparing for him to be impeached. Clearly, they know what they've been up to, and I think it's important to recognize that there are over 170 federal court cases currently in the federal court system. There are, as of today, 90 injunctions and restraining orders against the Trump administration for breaking the law. Will he ultimately be brought before Congress to answer and go through a due process where he is held accountable before the American people? I think it's very likely. I'm not afraid to say that. But we do believe in due process. And so we will see who comes forward, what allegations come forward. And if he's broken this many laws in 100 days, who knows what he's going to do over the next 100.
Sure, when we have subpoena power, I think it'll be time for us to not just play T-ball while they're playing hardball. I think we are out of time because somebody else is about to take over the room, but I know that some of you all have questions left, so maybe we can catch each other after this. Thanks, as always, for coming and asking us questions.
Thank you.
You got to get me to mark up. Okay. All right, sorry, I allowed to leave me to mark up.